Hi, this is Susan from Double Arrow Designs. Today I want to share with you this piece that I have bought about a month ago, this old telephone chair. I think we've all seen these. I remember mine from my childhood at my grandmother's house. My two sisters and I would go to my grandma's years ago in Brooklyn, and she didn't have many toys for us to play with, but she did have an old telephone chair like this with her rotary phone that would sit up here. And my two sisters and I would spend hours just pretending we were operators, calling different people, and just playing around with the rotary phone. It definitely did take up some time. So when I saw this for sale, I thought I really needed to have this. You don't come across these all the time. And when I got this, it was in this condition. And usually when you buy these pieces, they're in this condition. You can't see it from here, but there's a layer of dust, and the upholstery has seen much better days, if you can see that. It's definitely worn. The foam is really seen better days, and the top is definitely worn in places. So whenever I start a piece like this, I really like to have an idea in my head of what I'm going to do, and sometimes the idea comes through, and then sometimes I pivot mid-project. So I'll share with you my thoughts on what I'm going to do with this piece. So a while ago, I had done this secretary's desk. You can see the blog post on my website on Double Arrow Designs. And I used a process on the wood because, again, that was a dark finish. And I bleached the wood. And I really loved how the process came out. So I really love the idea of taking this tabletop here and bleaching it. So I'm going to have to strip that, bleach it. Then I'm also going to strip this upholstery. And my friend from Inspired Design Talk, Nicole Dela Cruz, who's a good friend of mine, gifted me with all of this home goods textiles. And I had done a previous telephone chair where I actually had taken a canvas piece and I had hand stamped with textile paint. I had done skeleton keys. And again, you can find that on my website at Double Arrow Designs. So I thought that process would be really interesting here. And then for the rest of the wood, I was going to prime it with a shellac-based primer and then coat it with a paint that was of a neutral color, depending on what my textiles end up being and how the bleached wood looks. And then doing that in strips in light fabrics, doing new foam, and seeing how that turns out. So come along on the process with me. I'm really excited to start this. And please like and subscribe if you find this video helpful. I'm really excited to get started, and just watch the process. So the first thing I did was unscrew the back of the upholstered seat off the frame so that I was able to reupholster everything, and then I gave it a really good quick wash. I think it's really important to do this. If the piece is small enough, you can lift it upside down, make sure you get underneath, and all around. I did this about twice. I just used a hot sudsy water, and then I took the old material off the board. I used a flathead screwdriver, took all of the nails off. You probably could wear gloves with this, but I always never do. Anyway, so I took all of this old upholstery, the batting, threw it away, and then I was going to use the stripper for the wood top. I applied it to the top, and they said to leave this for an hour, but I left this for about 4 hours. And I tried both levels, but in the end, the top was the one that I ended up doing because the other surface was just too hard to get at, and I abandoned that right away. It just ended up being primed and painted like the rest of the chair, as you will see in the final product. So then I took my foam, I used a Sharpie, I used it as a template, I cut it out and around so that it was the perfect shape of the board. Then I took my textile, I put it in front, made sure I liked how I did it, and then I started wrapping. I used my staple gun. You pull lightly on the fabric so that it's tight but not pulling, and so that it's not too loose. And then I just kept trimming and going around in circles. And then this way you distribute the weight of the fabric all around the board. So I just kept doing this process till I really liked how it felt and how the tension was. And then I folded the pieces into themselves at the corner, and I kept trimming the fabric so that it wasn't really bulky when I put it back on the frame. So as you can see, I did this process over and over until I ended up liking it. A couple of times I had to take the staples out, put the staples back. So I don't think sometimes it's a one-time deal. You just have to see how it looks. Then I took it outside and I used my hand sander after I had stripped the top of this wood. And I did this in order to get the other part of the stain off. So the stripper I used was really good at taking the varnish off, but this helped take the stain off. So I just kept this process, and it was good because it was only this one piece. And being outside, it's much better because of all the dust flying around. Then I applied the bleach, and this was a household bleach. I applied it, and then you can see here, I just let it dry in the sun, and you can see it's really pretty cool in the time lapse to see the wood turning a lighter color. And then when I was done, about 4 hours, I then neutralized it with a vinegar and water mix. So then I was ready to prime the rest of the chair. I used the Zinsser bin primer, which is a shellac based primer, which is really great at a barrier when you have a dark finish. I then took it inside after that had dried, and then used my Lewis Blue, Annie Sloan Lewis Blue paint to paint over the primer in all of my areas. So I just did it in sections with a brush. I used my Purdy brush, and I just did this in one coat, let that dry, and then I did a second coat of this afterwards. And I just really try to keep to the grain. And if you see any brush strokes, you could do a light sand just to take any ridges off. This was pretty good at what I had done. Then I had taken my stencil that I had created with my birds. I used my Cameo silhouette machine. I had created these birds. I stenciled in a lighter color onto the painted surface. So I'm all done with my telephone chair. Love, love, love how it came out. I ended up using an Annie Sloan Lewis Blue on the wood. It really picked up the blue in my upholstery chair. I don't know if you can see that. The blue here. Loved how it popped. And then I decided to do a stencil in a lighter contrasting color, and then using that contrast color in my little bullseye there, just to kind of bring in that color elsewhere onto the chair. The bleached wood came out great. I ended up doing 2 coats of the polyacrylic, Minwax polyacrylic clear coat, and loved how that came out. It's super smooth and looks great. And there you have it. I then used the polyacrylic all over the paint just to seal everything, and it is ready to go. I hope you guys enjoyed the process. I know I really did. So please hit the like button, subscribe if you'd like, and also share. Please follow along. I have my blog post at doublearrowdesigns.com, and see you next time. Thanks.